Good morning and welcome to the presentation for the annual shareholders meeting of the DNAGRA Group. This meeting is being recorded and will also be published either today or tomorrow, I assume. And I would like to remind you that we had, of course, already the presentation of the preliminary results. So we will go through the results again, but not as deeply as we did end of February, because there are no changes in the figures. There we had a meeting of, I think it took almost 2.5 hours with a huge Q&A session as well, where the CFO participated and the COO. So I'm not going to repeat everything what was discussed there. That meeting was also recorded as well. It's available in English and in Romanian. You can find it on our website in the investors section or otherwise through a link on the Bucharest Stock Exchange on the BVB platform, as well as you can find it on YouTube. But nevertheless, we will go briefly through it. I also, as probably you are all curious a bit about the current circumstances in the dairy sector, so we'll go into that, as well as we have received 16 questions in advance, so those I will answer as well, and then there's also some time for Q&A afterwards. But the idea of the call today, of course, is to somehow to have a briefly call, but we will allocate as much time as you request. So let's go to the first slide. So of course, we closed last year with around 18,000 cattle, 10,000 hectares in the group, 5 dairy farms, and of course 2 compost factories. We opened last year the first 2024, let's say end of the year, we started the first organic fertilizer factory, and by the end of 2025, we doubled our production capacity. As mentioned, we are the largest milk producer in EU, including the UK. Well, if we look, we had tripled so far the business since listing. Our EBITDA increased with 470% since listing. Last year, we produced 70 million liters of milk. This year, we estimate to produce 80 million liters of milk. And in our 2025-2030 strategy, which was announced last year in June, our aim is to reach a production capacity, an annual production capacity between 150 and 200 million liters of milk in 2030. We will later come to the investment that will lead to that, mainly, of course, the farm that is currently under development, the Straja farm, as well as the Kut 2 farm, where we aim to start pre-works in the second part of this year. Well, if we go quickly to the financial results, of course, that we announced end of February, there are no changes there. So we see constant growth, at least in the last couple of years, in turnover. We reached 213 million lei, EBITDA almost 100 million lei, and we had a net profit of 52 million lei. This is the GAAP. This is based on the Romanian GAAP figures. So we had quite a really successful year from that perspective. We had, of course, a 13% increase of milk delivery. We had a 12% increase of sales price. So it was a really good year for the milk market. On the agricultural part, it was a difficult year. We had the driest year in years, but I will come later on to that. Factors that mainly influenced, okay, we had 21% increase in turnover. We had quite an increase in salary expenses, mainly due to the fact that the agriculture facility was cancelled by the government. This was announced for 5 years, but it only remained for 2 years. As well as that we needed to do an inflation correction. We face already for several years in Romania a really high inflation. We try every year, we aim for our employees that they will not get poor, let's say, from that perspective. So we try to do every year an inflation correction. But of course, it becomes harder and harder to keep up with these kind of inflation numbers. If we look to the financial performance here, what we budgeted. So we budgeted between 215 and 225. based on the revised budget. I mean, you can see the turnover was well estimated at the beginning of the year. Why we are a bit lower than the revised budget, mainly due to the fact there was a sharper decrease in Q4 than we estimated of the milk price, as well as we estimated to sell more organic fertilizer in that period, but due to the delay of the EcoCert certification, we decided to sell less of the product because it has a significantly lower market value. For the rest, as I said, the revised budget said 93 to 97 million. We reached 97 on the top of that as well if we look to net profit. If we look to the IFRS indicators, first of all, why is the main difference here? That has to do with the biological assets, the valuation of that. So in the past, we used cost calculation for the biological assets, but also for feedstock, etc. And now with the implementation of IFRS, we use a fair value method. So to reflect, to first conform more to international standards and to reflect more the real value of the company. And it's good to mention that although our reports so far, they were dominated remaining GAAP from Q1. So in May, I think we present our results on the 26th of May, but I look quickly to Lakrima if she can confirm that. 26th of May, I think we produce. Yes, I think it's on the 26th of May, but I can be one day off here, that we publish our Q1 results, and that report will be dominated. That report will be dominated on IFRS. We will still publish the GAAP, but mainly it will be dominated from now on IFRS results. Then probably you would ask, okay, but why you didn't publish your IFRS budget yet? Because our budget was published this year in remaining GAAP. I will come later in the presentation to it when we will publish the IFRS budget as well as the IFRS scenarios. We have 4 financial scenarios that we present and update every year, sometimes even more often, but that's coming soon as well. Well, if we look here, we had a profit margin based on IFRS of 29% and an EBITDA margin of 49%. So it was a really, really strong year from this perspective. The net result is higher, as I mentioned, 64 million. And this is mainly due, as I said, because of the fair value method that we use in IFRS. Well, if we go to the operational activity, I mentioned already 70 million liters more. That means a 13% increase, which is quite significant. We had a good year on this perspective. We didn't have a significant heat wave. So this was on the dairy supply, that was a good year, as well as that we estimated an increase of 10%. For the coming year, we estimate a increase to 80 million liters of milk, so more or less the same increase. And we can see that we are quite on track so far, where we reached last year we started the year about 5.5 million liters per month, and then we increased to 6. So far, we can see in January and March, both months, we surpassed the 7 million liters milk indicator. And so far, we have in Q1 a 22% increase compared to Q1 last year. And this year is expected to more or less have a growth. Of course, the growth will decline a bit because in the first quarter of this year, compared to last year, we have the Straža farm, while last year we only started to produce milk in March with several cows, and then we gradually increased. Nevertheless, we ended the year with 2,200 dairy cows at the Straža farm. Our goal is to reach by the end of this year over 3,000 animals there. So we estimate more or less that we will keep up with the speed and that we will show growth and that we will reach our target. We are confident on that part. What could inflect or what could be a risk, let's say, not reaching the target? Of course, it would be if we have a really hot summer, which we had 2 years ago as well. We had a really hot period from May till September. I think, but I really do it from my head now, there we lost 5 or 6 million liters of milk. So that was at that time more than 1 month of milk. Of course, that could change the figures. But at least as far as we can oversee now, if it will be more or less a regular year, we are confident that we will reach the 18 million liters of milk, as I just mentioned. Then regarding the agricultural year, as I mentioned last year, it was a really tough year on the agricultural side. For us, here we see the water rainfall estimations, and you could see quite a difference if you look to the totals between 2024 and 2025, especially in our region between Orastia, Alba Iulia, and Sibiu. In that was the driest region of entire Romania. Generally, it's not. When my father entered Romania, the reason he chose for Transylvania was that generally this region has most sufficient rainfall. But last year it was an exception to that, and it was a really dry year in many crops, as you can see here. We had half of the year before. We see a significant drop there in triticale, although that was the beginning of the year. Okay, wheat more or less stayed the same. If we look to Lucerne, we went from 20 to 10. And corn silage from 31.5 to 18 tons per hectare. So that was a really tough year. Okay, the more fun aspect, or not fun aspect, is, but the benefit of this was, of course, that we saw the second part of last year a gradual increase in our production cost per liter of milk, but due to, on one hand, we are significantly increasing our herd year on year. So it means we need more feedstock to feed those animals. And we didn't increase the number of hectares that we work. And we had a hard year. It means that at the end of last year already, but especially this year, we buy a significant amount of food from the market. And the market prices for certain cereals, etc., are really favorable. So somehow, although you saw in Q4 last year quite a more significant increase in cost, we benefit from it at this part of the year due to that we are able to reduce our production cost compared to last year. And as you all know, we have also a significant drop in milk price, at least in the first few months. That helps to a certain extent. Current agricultural operations, we started to cut alfalfa. As you can see here, harvesting, cutting, and sowing corn. So everything goes in line. Also, the triticale crop looks really good. So far, we have really favorable conditions. We had a lot of snow, a cold winter. The fields were covered for weeks with snow. Means also a lot of added water, which slowly entered the soil. So far, as far as what we can, what estimate we can place on it at this time of the year, but so far the agricultural year looks really positive. Well, we go to the capital markets journey. Okay, on the left side, of course, you see the countries where we have our shareholders. That goes quite well. Also, yesterday we received that we are shortlisted again by our Investor Relations magazine, London, for Best Investor Day 2025 Small Cap. So we are really honored that for the third year in a row, and being the only Romanian company being shortlisted with the most important investor relations event that exists in Europe. As we can see, we ended the capitalization with 445 million lei, 91% up. Well, if we go here to the next slide, if we look to the end of the year, and I know it is not debatable, but we saw, although we really prepared at the end of February the preliminary presentation, we had a significant correction afterwards, let's say, to show you why we are confident in the milk market and the dairy market in Europe. We used a lot of slides from Rabo Research. If you didn't follow that call, I highly recommend you to either look up the slides that are online on our website. There are a lot of interesting slides, mainly through Rabobank Research, who is bank, I would say, the agricultural bank, who have amazing analysts in this field about the future and the next 10 years on the dairy sector in Europe. But nevertheless, on the stock market, it was a really successful year. We had a 90% increase in share price as well. There you see the BET index and the BET Arrow index, the index that we are in since 2022. Well, also, if we look to yearly traded value, we show a constant growth in traded value. Last year, we had a plus of 51%. So we are on the first position in the BET arrow value traded for 2025. So that is it's all quite going well. As well, of course, this further supports us with the upgrade to the main market and gives us confidence. It was one of the reasons for the main market was our goals to reach more or less a market cap around 100 million euros. Now, more or less, we reached that, as well as to have sufficient liquidity. I mean, we started in 2022 with 150 shareholders. Currently, we have over 5,000, as well as quite sufficient liquidity for Romanian market levels. So we are clearly getting next step to get listed on the main market, the Bucharest Stock Exchange, which is our aim next year in April or May. If we compare to other peers on the European level, we have First Farms listed in Copenhagen. They showed a small growth since then. We saw there we have a growth of over 340%. We have MHP. They had a plus of 11, and AGOA Group minus 84%. So yeah, so I think for the agriculture sector, we also see currently a lot of agricultural companies into difficulty. So far, the NAGR has a clear strategy, which we have clearly executed. And so far, we have delivered our budget and our results. And since listing, I must say we are in a constant challenge. It was the end of COVID. Then Russia started its aggressions at our neighbor, Ukraine. With a lot of consequence, of course, and inflation, increasing input prices, etc. And now we have the crisis in the Middle East. So we go from crisis to crisis, but so far we were able to mitigate and to adapt to each crisis. And I think that's a huge compliment to the entire team, of 300 employees, and especially, of course, to the management team of the NAGR. Well, then we go to the strategic projects. Although the milk price showed a significant decline, I mean, operational speaking, it is a really important year for the NAGR. We have a lot of projects implementing, as well as the long-term outlook for the dairy sector. It looks really good, really favorable. Milk prices, and we come later in the presentation to that, are estimated to show quite a significant increase in the coming years, and especially if we look in the coming decades. And we are really preparing for that, meaning we will further increase milk supply. That means this year we will finalize the construction of the Straja farm, not for animals. So with meaning by the end of the year to have 3,200 animals, more or less, around that area is our goal to reach that. But to finalize the construction phase, meaning stables and other equipments. And by the end of next year, so end of 2027, we will reach there 5,000 dairy cows. Another development, of course, that we are currently doing is the processing plant, which is currently under construction at the Straja farm, which is our goal to start testing operations in August. We are quite on schedule there, or we could see maybe a 1 month delay, but generally we are on schedule there. I will go later on in why we think this is a really important investment for the further growth of the NAGR. The first wheatgrass farm to construct. So we started preparation works already for this regard. We are quite advanced with the financing for that as well. And the goal is that this wheatgrass facility which will provide 30% of its feedstock for the Coot 1 farm in the second part of the year, probably Q4. Food cluster, I will come later on it. Compost, as I mentioned, we doubled last year capacity. One benefit of the Middle East crisis is that lately we get a lot of requests for organic fertilizer. So more or less at the moment we are more or less out of stock, I would say. But we get also a lot of requests already for the autumn, etc. And then we talk about significant numbers. You should think of one client for 1,500 tons, 2,000 tons, these kind of quantities and contracts which we are currently negotiating. But that looks at least good. And this is first, and due to the decline of the milk price, you will see that in the Q1 results that compost or organic fertilizer starts to take or to occupy a place there as well. And although the quantities so far were relatively small, with the goal of further expanding. We see a really good market for there. We will also soon start our branding. We have chosen a name, but it is still under consultation. So we will announce, I think, next month, by the end of next month, the name, the branding. It's more or less all finalized. We are working on the website, etc. So to have a really good kickoff. Well, so we go first for the production of the cream factory. So currently we are constructing a cream factory and skimmed milk with 150,000 liters per day. That is the total production capacity of the Strasia 1 farm. It's also built at the Strasia 1 farm. It's an investment of close to 3.5 million euros, which was the financing was already approved. It's financed by Exim Bank, 1.5% interest rate plus 6 months Euribor. And the construction is on the way. Technology is purchased from the Netherlands. And currently, we are finalizing the building. And then from next month or in 1.5 months, the technology will be installed. So we will have a production capacity there of 150,000 liters per day, as well as we will add storage capacity of 300,000 liters per day, which means if we would sell more often on the spot market or whatsoever, it means we not necessarily need to sell in the weekends or on public holidays whatsoever. On those days, spot market prices are significantly lower, or it's harder to offset your milk supply. Another advantage of why we are investing in this facility. Now, there are two components. Many times you get questions, okay, why you don't start to produce under your own label and create your own yogurts or cheese or whatsoever. We work with really large clients and we know our place in the whole ecosystem. I mean, it's not our goal to compete with our largest clients. We have long-term relationships. So we analyze how could we have a more resilient business model and also create more options for type of clients. In many meetings that I have with institutional investors, they mention many times, of course, they would like to see a more diverse portfolio, especially being active in a commodity market, have a more diverse portfolio of clients. So with this, due to this cream and skim milk facility, we can sell to milk processors, but we can also sell to ice cream factories, bakeries, small food producers who need smaller quantities of these kind of products. But also think of Nestle, Unilever, these type of companies, semiconductors in the sense of, who will make a full product out of this. So we can diversify our clients while it remains B2B, so we don't compete with the large clients that we have, as well as we can take out, in this case, we can take out water from the milk, which means now we transport with 4 trucks 100,000 liters of milk. Then we could transport with 1 truck this 100,000 liters of milk, which means significantly expansion of the geography where we operate in. We see for many years that the highest milk price is in northern Italy and Greece. We see a lot of growth potential. We started last year, especially to export to Greece, where we had amazing prices, especially in the summer. We had over 80 cents per liter, even for a while. Which means with this skimmed milk, cream, etc., and taking out of the water, we can significantly reduce transportation costs and export more to countries with a more favorable milk price for the additional milk price that we for the additional milk that we produce. Again, it's good to remind we are not necessarily connected to the Romanian milk price. Our milk price is an average of 6 Northwestern European countries, but of course the milk now additionally produced, we sell partly in Romania, we sell partly in Bulgaria and to some other countries. And of course, in the moment, that part is not the most favorable business. We will test this for 1 year, and the aim is with the Q2 farm development that we also will build there this processing plant as well. And then in time, we could come to a balance where we sell more or less 50% of our milk on the local market through contracts. And the rest will be either to those other type of clients, other segments of clients, as I mentioned, ice cream factories, Nestle, Unilever, these kinds of companies, or to export it. And then our main targets are Greece, Northern Italy. You could also think of Croatia, etc. And also there, the estimation, especially in Southern Europe, is that a lot of farmers will quit there. They will not have a follow-up or a succession. Which means, and especially Greece, for example, they have dairy, it's really in their diet. And there is now already a huge shortage on that market. So the price expected to remain stable or further increase in the future. This is how it's going to look like. And this is the current situation. On the right, you see the Strasje farm. You see it's just in front of the milking parlor. So that will be all connected with pipes. And we're moving forward. So then to the biomethane, this thing looks pretty good. Mentioned before, land acquisition is finalized. We are in the permitting phase. Now, this will take 6 to 8 months. So we said first Q2, probably final investment decision is now, we estimate end of Q3. There are 2 things still need to be done. Legislation is all implemented. Even now, with the political crisis that's going on, I checked it with our legal team. This will not, even if the government will fall, this will not have any implications on the legislative part, because the legislative part is implemented. There is one thing that still needs to be implemented, but that needs to be implemented with ANRE. And that is about the key technical specifications of injection into the grid. Things look really good. We estimate here 3 to 3.5 million euros on a yearly basis. We started testing our manure. So far, our manure is from a higher quality than the base price. So if we maintain this type of manure, we could even see a higher value there. Still, 2028 is on track, and the financials look really good for this project. With the financial investment decision later this year, of course, the ANRE needs to do the implementation, and we need to have the building permit, and then more or less we can start directly. So still so far for what we can oversee. And I discussed this as well, of course, with our partner, Black Sea Oil and Gas. Still foresee, we see start in Q1 2028. Solar panels, okay, clear. We did this investment last year with 60% of funding on the Apold, the Lacto farm, and the Koet farm. And our goal is when there opens a new round that we will also install it on the Strasje farm. We not only have solar panels, but we have also batteries. Then we go to the Koet farm. Yesterday, more or less, was confirmed that the financing, it will be financed by ING, the Koet 2 farm. It will be a financing of 13.5 million euros, which means 10 million euros for the development of the Koet 2 farm, and an additional 3.5 million euros for the development of 2 additional organic fertilizer units, which will bring us the capacity to 28,000 tons of organic fertilizer, as well as it will add 38,000 certificates, voluntary carbon certificates as well, which have currently a value between 20-30 euros, which we aim to sell in Europe to other companies. You can think of companies like Shell, Vitol, etc., who could be off-takers of these kind of certificates. And we aim in 2030 to have annually voluntary carbon certificates of 100,000. And we aim that we will have this for 15 years. So first you certify for 5 years, and you can extend it for 2 times 5 years. And that is all ongoing. Normally, we will receive the first certificates from next year. And there are some good developments going on there that the European Commission is planning to include them in the ETS system, the European trading system, which makes it way easier as well as more transparent as a trading platform. So you don't need to sell them from company to company, but you can sell them through this trading platform, where it's estimated that the price could at least double from what it is today. As well, we could use those certificates in the future. It's clear our main strategy is to produce net zero milk in 2030. So if the last few percent we would not be able to reach that from operational point of view, of course we could also use these kind of certificates to reach this goal. The Koet 2 farm, so as I said, it's more or less approved. Now, of course, also Exim needs to approve the financing from ING. It's with 1.5% interest and 1 month Euribor, so there's a small difference there. And I expect that end of May, first week of June, that's our goal, to have the shareholders meeting approved. Start construction, or at least preparing the land, etc., is expected for the second part of this year. And the goal is to start milk at least the first cows in 2028, end of Q1. That means and then it will reach full capacity in 2030. And it will follow the same structure as the Straja 1 farm. So it's more or less exactly the same structure with a production capacity of also 150,000 liters per day. That means over 50 million liters on an annual basis. Well, then we go to the wheatgrass production. There we estimate an investment of 3 million euros. It's our goal to combine those votes from the shareholders meeting, but we could end up in a situation that we have one beginning of June and one end of June. And nevertheless, we started pre-works, etc. We signed a contract with Logix, and this will be a test facility for 1 year, at least 1.5 years, to optimize the process. 30% of the feedstock will be grown on the farm through a hydroponic farm, fully automated. So from seeding till harvesting till cleaning, it's fully automated. The water usage that is used will be collected, as well it will be washed, and it can be reused again. Anyway, this product consumes 90% less water usage than a conventional crop. We will have constant protein level, constant sugar level. So our animals will get used to 30% of fresh food every day. This facility will have a 40 tons output per day with limited uses of light. And of course, solar will be included. And this will be a huge step to further integrate our business model without necessarily extending the conventional crops. And that's what we see is we have climate change, we have a lot of crisis. And anyway, if we look to our production cost, 3 out of 5 years, we are not able with our production cost for the crops to compete with the market prices. So from our perspective, this will give a lot of health benefits. We estimate that it will increase milk supply, constant freshness, and more control over the food and the quality of food, because that differs as well now every year, as well as that we can build more farms in the area where we are, which means we can share services. Think of vets, think of training, think of construction team, etc. Think of logistics. We all can share that between our farms, which is an optimization of cost, of course. As well, if we look to this map, we see over here that Romania, especially Eastern Europe, but also Italy, Greece, Spain, etc., that are the countries who will be affected most by climate change. In our region, we cannot irrigate. We have hills as well as in part salty water. So through this, we secure feedstock where it will become even more unpredictable in the future. We will do a rollout project for 1.5 years, optimize it, and then the aim is to grow from 40 tons to at least 200 tons output per day, and to grow this on every farm, as well as that we will set up this sort of a company together with Logix to sell this technology in the future to other parties as well. So there we will, but that will take at least 2 to 3 years before you reach that level, because first we need to optimize the system. Here you see how more or less it will look like. Fully automated, goes around harvesting, everything goes around. It has a growth cycle of 6 or 7 days. Climate is fully controlled, and no human labor is really necessary here, only to drive the truck and to fill the basket with seeds, I would say. Then we see here the Koet farm in the upper picture. There you see the silos. Next to the silos, there will come the wheatgrass facility. For that, we needed to move storage. That is finalized, as you can see here on this picture. Then on the food cluster, we are finalizing the next phase in market study, as well as that we started to look for certain plots. We have more or less around 3 locations inside around Bucharest. So we are finalizing, as well as we started to discuss with partners to come to Romania. That is running as well. We will have some site visits from certain companies who are interested to cooperate with this. And this could result even that we start already to construct next year. That really depends on which partner we select. But we are quite advancing to create the right and optimal product mix. The food cluster means not only one type of fruit or vegetable. We will look for 4, 5, 6 mainly vegetables, and what is then the right mix of it throughout the whole year that we can become of added value also for supermarkets, that we can supply 30-40% of their most consumed fruits and vegetables. We see a huge deficit in Romania on fruits and vegetables, but we see also a lot of potential. Some key factors, of course, is energy sort, energy mix, infrastructure, railway, etc., where we are looking into that. We cooperate on this with the Big Four firm as well as with the Wageningen Metropolitan Food Clusters, who have huge experience in creating food clusters all over the world. So here you can see we also did a visit at the beginning of this year. The Strage farm, I mentioned already, end of this year, finalized construction. Next year, full operational with 5,000 dairy cows. Here we see some stables. The cows are chilling here in the straw over there. We have here 2 rotors. As you can see, it's the largest farm in our group so far. And it's going quite well. I mean, it produces generally more than a Koet farm, and it has more or less the same amount of animals at the moment. Okay, we will further invest in the storage of the dike estate, because the lagoons that we have currently on our farms where we collect our manure, we cannot use them in the future anymore to collect our manure there, because the manure goes directly into the biomethane plant. And after it goes to the compost plant. So, and a part of it goes in the compost plant of the dike estate, and the remaining dike estate, we will bring directly to the fields in lagoons, so that we will have less transportation costs in the future. And from those lagoons, the fields can directly be fertilized. Compost units, as I mentioned already, we have approval from ING. Now only Exim needs approval as well, which will take probably 2 to 3 weeks. And then we will have a shareholders meeting. Our goal is to in 2030 to have 40,000 tons of organic fertilizer per year to sell outside the group. Currently, we have a capacity of 14,000. And in the next approval for financing, it is 10 million for the Koet 2 farm, 3.5 million for 2 additional units, which we will see. We can start preparation work end of this year. But normally the goal is that it will come operational somewhere in 2027. Here we can see the compost at the Apold farm. And on the right side, you see pre-composting. So how it works, we have 5 days of pre-composting, then it enters the compost station, and it goes through this machine between 27 and 33, 34 days, depending on the temperature. And more or less then the project is finalized. Also, we invested in a packaging machine, so we can sell in big bags, full truck as well. From now on, we can sell in 5, 10, and 20 liters, where market prices are have a significantly higher value. Here we see the compost unit at Lacto Agrar Farm. This we started more or less this year, as you can see. It starts to be full as well. Here we are still in optimizing and testing phase, so we cannot sell yet this compost. We more or less use that for internal purposes. It's a good product, but we still need to optimize the final product and to optimize the exact recipe. Well, the path to the main market, it's good to mention, we have so implemented IFRS. We will soon select and announce the broker who will support us with that, and probably a bank, as well as the goal is to do the upgrade to the main market next year in April, May. We are completely on schedule with this. As well as we started to do roadshows, so we started to meet large institutional investors. Next week, I go together with my CFO. We go on a European roadshow. We will do 5 cities in 4 days. We will go to London, Paris, Frankfurt, Zurich, and Geneva in 4 days, and we will meet 28 funds, meaning asset managers, institutional, even to really large institutional managers, as well as family offices. So that are really full days, but also really exciting to gain, of course, more experience for us as a management team in these kind of meetings, as well as to further prepare to do the upgrade to the main market, as well as that we expect to raise capital in the future, mainly for the development of the food cluster. So the majority of the project that you see in our plans, we think we were able to finance them by bank, but for the food cluster, we aim to raise capital. It's good to mention that from now on, we integrated our ESG reporting in the annual report. So in the last couple of years, we reported separately. This year, we reported integrated. Another request is that more or less for companies on the main market. So also we are aligned there. I don't want to go too deep in today, but this can all be found on our website in the report, of course. And as well, the report will be published today or tomorrow, I think tomorrow on the Bucharest Stock Exchange, and there this is included. The timeline, this can be, again, our main goal is to start a bit to diversify, so to have a more resilient business model. That means we have milk, we have raw milk in 2030, as well as we have cream and skimmed milk. Next to that, sustainability, but in an economic way, compost, biomethane, both with significant high profit margin. So we will really see a shift in the future in our EBITDA and in our net profit, which is now more or less solely based, I would say, around milk. But and the first time you see a bit of the compost, you will see that in the Q1 results. As well as to a large extent, of course, is the food cluster, which is a different leg, but there are some synergies. Think of energy and think of the fertilizer that we can use in those greenhouses. And then, of course, wheat grass, etc., is more to sustain the feedstock itself and belongs to current operations. This is what the plan will look like. The business model, 150 to 200 million liters of milk, fully integrated on all our farms, 30%, maybe 40% grown in a vertical farm of the feedstock. A milk substitute, cream, skimmed milk for now. We could increase that in the future. All solar driven. Biomethane compost, as I mentioned. And then the real new leg of the DNR group will be a metropolitan food cluster around the metropolitan area of Bucharest. Here we have the scenarios. For this year, of course, we expect a bit of a different result because we have a significant decline in the first part of the year of the milk price, but we will soon see that better times lying ahead. As well as due to the roadshow, our first initial goal was to publish the IFRS scenarios as well as the IFRS budget in our Q1 results. But of course, we do our best to be as transparent as possible. And as we go next week on this roadshow, we will publish this week or latest next week on Monday our IFRS budget for this year, as well to come with the IFRS scenarios on the long term, because those will be updated in the capital market story. Anyway, our capital market story will be a bit updated, which we will announce through a current report on the stock exchange, so that everyone has the same information wherever you are located. And why we didn't change the budget of the scenarios. The scenarios are for the long term. We see this year as an outlier, but from all the studies that are done currently, the expectations is that in the coming 10 years, this Western European price is between 48 and 52 euro cents. That's more or less what they are writing. So we stick more or less to that, to those ideas, although some of those scenarios here, they have a lower milk price than that. But we don't estimate necessarily that it will, for now, but I mean, because it remains a commodity market, but for now, we expect that at least in the coming years will not go all the time under 46 or whatsoever. So, and that in those scenarios, we will reach all plans that we have announced. So that looks quite good. This year as well, probably what we will see is a lot of farmers don't use chemical fertilizers, etc. So we have probably lower crop output later in the year, which could be a further push for an increase in milk price, because usually those things are quite aligned. Increase in input costs or lower harvest, etc., are closely connected to the milk price. Budget forecasting. So this year, a turnover of 200 million, 38 million, EBITDA of 85 million. So slightly lower than last year. Still the margins, at least the EBITDA margin drops a bit as well. But the profit margin, of course, we had 29%. We go now to 19%. Still, from our perspective, that is quite competitive for the agri industry. Nothing necessarily to worry about. And we have to rethink, okay, this although it is a hard year on the milk price, I mean, but we are implementing a lot of projects. And if you look for 2027 and especially 2028 in the coming years, so we will finalize the Strage farm. We will have the cream skimmed milk factory, and we will start to produce in 28 with the Coutu farm, biomethane and some additional compost units. All businesses where we have experience in, only, okay, the cream and skim milk is a new market, but still in the commodity market. We are really well positioned to have a significant boom in financial and operational results from 2028 and onwards, I would say. And that is also reflected in our internal analysis. If you look to our cash position, etc., in 2028. That means we have a lot of additional cash. And then, of course, we need to decide in that period if we should go for dividends or if we aim to use less bank financing and more finance project ourselves. This can all be found where it is built on. Of course, this year it was really hard to estimate exactly where the milk price will end because we didn't know where the decrease, up to how far the decrease will continue. But we see slowly a recovery of the market, at least of the contracted market in our case. Also this week we will know our price for June, but at least we know our price already for May. And if we go here, we have the milk market outlook. So before we go to the milk price, here we see Ireland and the Netherlands. They deliver 15% of the EU market of milk, but both countries face nitrogen. So as well as in Denmark in the coming years, which are three main exporting nations, we will see a significant decline of milk supply. In the Netherlands, it's even 20% less. On the European level in the coming years, they estimate a 5% in milk supply, while consumption remains steady. That's already for quite some years. Okay, some products are switching from raw milk to more cheese or to other more protein products, but it's steady. And if you look to global increase of demand, the estimate by Rabo Research is 20% in the coming years. Well, in the meantime, a significant number of farmers in Europe is over 55 years old. So we will see a lot of small farmers who will not be able to apply to sustainability legislation as well as to and don't have succession, who will go out of the market, as well as expected that also from Western Europe, due to those nitrogen issues, that we will see a significant move to Eastern Europe for milk, but as food production in general. So as well as CE region has no nitrogen issue or other issue or density issue. So the CE region has a lot of potential to be more intensified. A lot of land available, low population density, as well as significant food deficits. I mentioned already, majority of farmers 55 years old. Only 12% of farmers under 40 years old. Most small, medium farms will disappear. We see Spain, Portugal, Italy, as well as Eastern Europe is mainly affected in this regard. If we see the trend is already for a long time going on. I mean, in 2003, we had 50 million farms. Now there are 10. In 2016, there were 10.3. 2020, 9.1. Another decrease in 2040. The estimation from Eurostat is 3.8 million euros. If we look to the milk market evolution, and there's an interesting report, and you can find the link below from the Wageningen University. I printed it here, but they have a dairy panel, and that is mainly estimated on the EU market outlook for dairy, as well as it is connected also to the Netherlands, but there our price is closely connected to, and they think, or their estimation, and they do this dairy panel, it's with financial specialists, and they do this update every year for the next decade, and their estimation for regular milk is 51.5, and for organic milk 61.5. What we see already for a longer period with organic milk is that the price is really stable. So we saw a significant decrease in milk production, but the price is really for bio milk, it is really stable. So that could be something interesting to look up in the future. And this is what they estimate for the coming year. So between 49, last year it was 48 to 52.5. and now they increase it with a cent. So their estimation is that the milk price will be in the coming 10 years on average between 49 and 52 cents. Then we look quickly to the milk chart, our contracted milk price, and here we see quite a significant increase. I think it's a bit over 6% in May of our contracted milk. And this week we will know also what it's in June. So if it is only one step and it will stabilize again, or the increase will further, the milk price will further start to increase. Of course, it would really benefit the Q2 because especially March and April were really challenging months from the milk price perspective. But at least we see quite a first step to recovery, I would say, and that's expected. The price is expected mainly to recover in the second part of the year. Also, for everyone who's worried that we will have a loss or whatsoever in Q1, that is not on the table at all. So we will have a profit, but of course, a significantly lower profit than we had last year. Then to the upcoming defense, I will participate in Field the Markets on the 29th of April. That's tomorrow. Then, as I mentioned, we go on a roadshow. Then on the 25th of May, we have the publication of Q1, and 26th of May, the teleconference for presenting the Q1 results. Then we go quickly to the questions. Does the AGOA engage in trading activities with milk? Now, to a certain extent, of course, we have a contract with a trader, so that all the milk produced at the Strasia farm is not contracted. So that milk is being sold through a trader, but we don't purchase ourselves milk from the market. So what we state always in the reports is milk delivered. Why we state milk delivered last year 70 million? That's mainly due to the fact that we produce a bit more milk than at 70 million, but you have always sick cows, so that milk you need to throw away, as well as a part of the milk is used internally for calves. So that's the reason we have milk produced and milk delivered. Milk delivered means milk delivered to factories. So we don't interfere ourselves necessarily in this trading, but we work with a trader, and the price is usually set every 1 or 2 weeks. And that is negotiated between our team and this trader, and he sells it to Southern Europe, Bulgaria, all types of country where there's interest, but also on the local market. What is the current state of the bio lounge? Now, I more or less mentioned it. Everything is going on. We are in the permitting phase. Now, of course, this takes time, as well as the ANRE needs to come up with the final indicators to inject into the grid. But everything is moving on, and still 2028 is on the table. Financials look good. So we are really positive that we will have a positive FID there as far as we can oversee that for now. How does the price compare to your expectations? I would say the price increase that we saw just in May, that comes really close to the price where we based our budget on for this year. Okay, we need to recover mainly from February, but mainly from March and April, of course, in the coming months to have a higher milk price. But at least the price itself that we will receive in May on the contracted part comes close to where our budget is built on for this year. Nevertheless, we didn't contract the Strasia milk price, and of course that milk we sell cheaper than the contract for a lower price than the contracted price. This we did because we need the milk for the processing plant. And like to give you an example, generally we close contracts for 3 years or something like this. And anyway, it was really hard to close any contract with this oversupply currently on the market. So sometimes I see some comments why they don't contract it, or it doesn't make sense. Now everyone can imagine when the milk price is so down, it's almost impossible to contract it, or to contract it for a really low price, which is really risky if you expect a recovery. What is the estimated price per liter of milk? We don't announce the price. What I can say is, of course, the last couple of months it was just a drop under the 40 cents, and now we see that it comes over the 40 cents again, which is a good sign. Of course, on the spot market, the price really varies and was partially lower. But I saw in the media there are farms who sold for 12 euro cents and these kind of things. We are literally not in these kind of situations. So even on the spot market, main months we sold above the 30 euro cents, or more or less significantly above the 30 euros. But we have, of course, also days or weeks that you sell between 20 and 30 cents on this spot market. But as I said, Still, from our perspective, Q1 will have it is maybe not as worse as everyone has expected. Of course, it is significantly lower, but we're not by far not close to a loss or all these kind of things. So we are really in line to reach the budget that we have announced, let's say. And if the milk price increases in the coming months, it's clear that we need to restate maybe our budget. Although we have, of course, a challenge in the Middle East with fuel and maybe other input costs, which we need to analyze. The strategy I mentioned, so far we don't have delays. So everything goes on from the wheatgrass plant to the processing plant to the Strasia farm, approval for the Q2 farm. Of course, we can have one delays, 1 or 2 months here and there. The financing always take a lot of months, need to be approved with 2 banks, etc. But generally, everything is on track. So far, we don't really encounter any issues there. Do you anticipate changes to the strategy? No, the strategy is exactly on track. What does the N stand for? Well, the company was founded together. When my father founded the company, he founded the company with a German lawyer at that time, and the aim was to reach German and Dutch investors, meaning Dutch and German investors at that time to finance the investments here is set to be expected to be from those countries. In the end, we had only Dutch investors, so Deutschland, Nederland. That Deutschland, Netherlands means it. After listing, what factors led to an increase in the net margin? I mentioned that already, mainly increase in milk and price. After listing to the main market, will you consider paying dividends? We have announced that we will have a vote in 2027 or 2028 on our shareholders if we should pay dividends or reinvest all our profits, but we are open for that. What's the current stage of the organic compost certification process? Now we are really finalizing the end states, I would say. So from our perspective, it will only take a couple of weeks to reach this. If you think it is feasible to diversify the types of milk produced, establish farms for goats, buffalo, sheep, I think there's clearly a market for goats milk, but we have already a really ambitious strategy, let's say, with a lot of increase in current operations as well as the development of the food cluster. So for now, we stick to our strategy, and it is already hard enough to keep speed up with all the process from financing, permitting, finding the locations, finding the right partners. That's also from an operational point of view. Also, the execution is ambitious. So far, we are really on track, but it is of course a push for the entire team. When do you think the company will be listed on the main market? Our goal is next year, April, May. How will the opening of China's dairy market affect you? Well, that is really hard to analyze at the moment. Our milk price is mainly connected to Northwestern Europe, so not to Romania itself. Of course, automatically means when more higher value products will be sold or exported to Romania, it means more requests on the local market, which maybe cannot fully supply from Hungary and Poland, which could mean, of course, a better negotiation position. But it's really hard to say for now. You guided lower milk price. What is for 2026? What is your base case price assumption today, and how would EBITDA evolve under the 10 to 15%? Well, we don't discuss the milk price because it is based on our contract, we are not allowed to share, so it's confidential. But our cost structure is built from significant fixed costs, but also variable cost components. Therefore, EBITDA is highly leveraged to milk price movement. So in this case, a 10% increase in milk prices would translate today into approximately a 20 to 25% increase in EBITDA as an effect of the cost structure of our business. So that's more or less it. Of course, now in the future that we are diversifying, especially if we think for the valuation of manure in different ways, we will see in the future that will occupy as well 30% or above if we think of compost and of the biomethane production of EBITDA. So this will be more filtered. How does climate change influence the agricultural operations? Of course, it influences. That's the reason we invest further in solar, and mainly we invest in no-till technology as well as in as I said, no-till, as well as in the wheat of the feedstock facilities, the wheat cross facilities. Any other questions? How will Mercosur affect your profit? What strategies do you have to tackle this barrier? From our perspective, Mercosur will not affect our profit, at least not in a negative way. It means more soya beans, for example, on the market, which will be beneficial for us to purchase that from the market as a relatively cheap feedstock, as well as what we see is that more final products could be exported to Southern America. Think of cheese and other higher value products, which means could mean an offset for the European market in higher value added products, which could lead to an increase in milk price. So from our perspective on this part, we don't see much. Of course, you could argue on the meat price, but also in that study from Wageningen, and we see a significant decrease in number of farms as well as in animals, is that they expect that the price of animals, of dairy cows, more or less remain stable or will increase, which is a good thing, especially now when we use the fair value method. If you think of the IFRS results, that would, of course, could have a big variable and would have impact. But for now, there's no impact seen. Then we have another question. Hello, will the vegetable foods grown in greenhouses be exported to the EU? If it were close to the biogas production, it would help us with CO2 and lower heating costs, and transportation for export would be cheaper, but Bucharest EFLOS is also a large market. For now, mainly we focus on the Bucharest region, which means the market studies that we do follow from Odessa, Bucharest to Sofia. That is the region that we look at to partially fulfill. Of course, in time we could also export, but we see huge potential here. We see sales prices in our research in Romania are significantly higher than all of Southern Europe, as well as all the peer countries, let's say in Eastern Europe. So we see good margins there. So mainly it's that. Of course, it could help with the biomethane production. Yeah, you could capture CO2, etc. Although there are different debates about that. With the CO2, you need then extremely take care of that you clean the CO2 well, because otherwise your paprika will taste not like how you're used to be, but now you can imagine it will have a different taste. So that is still something to be sorted out, but you can also think of geothermic, solar, gas, and to have the right mix in this case. But biogas could be an interesting option as well there. How was the average milk price in Q1 26 to 25? By how much did it decline? How do you see it in Q2 compare? Now, I mentioned a bit in this direction, but of course, this is for the rest not the Q1 call. We will do that as it is also no public information. We will announce this by the end. But of course, there is a significant decline, not so necessarily in January, but mainly especially was a big jump from February to March. So yeah, it is significant, and we will give you the percentage as well. It's not that I don't want to share it, but that is, yeah, that would be really going into detail too much to the results. And I mentioned already, you will see in the results from Q1 there's a clear contribution from compost as well as from milk. But of course, last year we had around 50 million net profit. Yeah, there will be a clear decline, but nevertheless, it is still a suitable net profit, I would say, that we will have. How did the milk price evolve so far compare? And regarding Q2 for this year, I just showed you the milk price from May, and we will receive somewhere. So if we receive it on time, I probably can show it maybe tomorrow in Field of Markets, and we will update it in our capital market story as well, as it is feasible for everyone. How did the milk price evolve so far compared to the expectation that you used when creating the budget? So far, we come close, as I mentioned. Now, the milk price that we receive in May, that price will is more or less close around the price, the base price where we built our budget on. So far, with the market studies that are done, we are confident we will reach the budget. Do you see any impact so far for your business from the political instability? Now, of course, it could be, but as I mentioned already, the main impact first, I was really afraid in the case of the biomethane, because also due to the previous political crisis that we had here, the biomethane thing was delayed with 1.5 years, the legislation, but that is not on government level anymore. Other things could be if again we will have tax increases or harder to obtain certain subsidies, but so far we don't see any. As well as that all our loans are in euro. So somehow we are also a bit isolated in that regard. Inflation is a huge issue as well that we tried really to compensate the last couple of years, but we have now for several years already quite significant increase in salary cost. That is another issue. There was a recent discussion in China would allow import dairy. Okay, I don't see any positive impact in our case on the short term, and about the longer term, this really needs to be seen. It's too soon to say. Yes. Can you go down a bit? We have. What about subsidies? What's the amount received per cow? Which cows are eligible for receiving subsidies? Necessary capex for the biogas project. So the capex for the biogas project is between 30 to 40 million euros. So far, we are not an equity partner in that process, which means we only deliver the manure, get the digestate back, and obtain 3.5, maybe 4 million euros on an annual basis, and we only have transportation costs there. We have the option to become an equity partner for 10 or 20% of that. So that would mean, let's say, if the capex investment is 30 million, 3 or 6 million euros, which we need to decide on later on this year. The subsidies received every year vary. They get for welfare, we get for liters of milk, etc. For the number of animals itself. Of course, you get a bit for crops as well, for fuel. But we receive only for a bit over than 60% of our herd subsidies. This mainly has due to the reference date, which is 2018. So we only receive for a part of our animals these subsidies. Okay, then will we invest in two food clusters only? No, we will not invest in a food cluster in Alba County at all. So the food cluster will be developed around Bucharest. What will be the contribution to compost factory to the total sales? I will come back to that because I really don't know this now exactly from my head. I think our goal this year is to sell, but this I need to verify. Our goal in our budget, I think we will produce. Our aim is to sell around 6,000 or 7,000 tons, which we have included. Of course, currently, to give you a bit of an idea, okay, is currently we more or less sell because it's not certified. So we sell between 120 and 155 euros, depends a bit on the quality of the product. When with the certification, we aim to sell at least from 180 and plus, and we think it's a competitive market this year due to the problems and the high price with chemical fertilizer. But the truth is also we have one plant is operating at the moment. The lacto is still in the testing phase. So if we would have had more compost today, we could relatively easily sell significantly more. So that is not the issue at the moment. But as I mentioned, we are more or less close out of the stock, and we are now negotiating contracts for the autumn. Then I think we reached all the questions, or not? There are still 2 in the chat, I think. No? Okay. So then thank you very much for your attention. We will see each other end of May at the Q1 results. Tomorrow, as I mentioned, I will be present at Field and Markets. Yeah, that's more or less it. I wish you a lovely day. If there are any additional questions or things that are not clear, please send us an email to the investors email, and we will come back to you this week. Yeah, and then we see each other at the end of May where we publish our results. IFRS focus. Oh yeah, and as I mentioned, this week we'll publish the IFRS budget as well as the IFRS scenarios as well, so that everything is fully in line with the figures that we produce in Q1. Thank you very much and have a good day.